And now Andrew Yang from what is the Des Moines Register Soapbox live coverage on C-SPAN.
So much love. I see some math hats too. What does math stand for? Does anyone know? Make America think harder. That's right. Because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. And that's this guy. So what do we mean by make America think harder? I'm not a career politician. I'm an entrepreneur and problem solver. And I'm running for president to help wake up America to the real problems that got Donald Trump elected. If you were just to flip on the cable news, why would you think that Donald Trump's our president today? Why would you think that Donald Trump won Iowa by 9 points? Russia. Emails. Facebook. Hillary Clinton. Yeah, that's somewhere on the list. To me, the driving force behind Donald Trump's victory was that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, and 40,000 right here in Iowa. Now, if you think about those 40,000 jobs in Iowa, that's 40,000 families, and it's not just the manufacturing jobs. If you go to the shopping district, or what used to be the shopping district, what do you see? How many of you have noticed stores closing around where you work and live? It's not just you. 30% of America's stores and malls are closing in the next 4 years. And why is that? Amazon, that's right. It's a one-word answer. Amazon's soaking up 20 to 30 billion in commerce every single year. And how much are you seeing? How much did Amazon pay in taxes last year? Zero. That's right. Amazon, this is the math. Amazon sucks up 20 to 30 billion from your communities. 30% of your stores and malls close. People lose their jobs. The most common job in Iowa and in the United States is a retail worker. The average retail worker is a 39-year-old woman making between $9 and $10 an hour. So if 30% of your stores and malls close, what is she going to do for her next opportunity? You're getting zero in return because Amazon's paying zero in taxes. How is it possible that $1 trillion tech company paid less in taxes than everyone here today? Corruption. That's a one-word answer again. That's right. Money has overrun our system. Money has overrun our politics, and Amazon is laughing its way to the bank. Now, these are the real problems that helped get Donald Trump elected. It's not just manufacturing or Amazon closing the retail stores. My friends in Silicon Valley are working on cars and trucks that can drive themselves. Think about what that's going to mean here in Iowa. I was just at Iowa 80, the country's largest truck stop. Raise your hand if you've been to Iowa 80. Must everyone, right? Because they've got a mean buffet. It's a good value. So Iowa 80 talks about, hey, proudly, 5,000 people stop there every single day. Biggest truck stop in the country. What's going to happen in 5 to 10 years when the trucks start driving themselves? Driving a truck is the most common job in 29 states, including this one. Raise your hand if you know a truck driver. I have a truck driver in the family. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. My friends in Silicon Valley are working on trucks that can drive themselves for the most American of reasons, for the money. $168 billion a year in cost savings if they can successfully get rid of truck drivers' jobs. That's a lot of money. That's an unthinkable amount of money. It's so much money that if you're an investor and someone comes to you and says, hey, if you invest $1 billion in my company, I think I can help get rid of truck drivers, you make that bet. And then what do? They hire hundreds of the smartest engineers in our country who are working on that problem right now. And they tell me they are 98% of the way there. They say they're 2% from getting rid of truck drivers. Now that's a big 2% because you can't have trucks slamming into things at a 2% error rate. I mean, that's not a good plan. But to bet against these engineers and investors eventually solving for the last 2% is a losing bet. Because you're betting against the amassed capital and technology of our entire society trying to get rid of truck drivers. So what's that going to mean for the 3.5 million Americans who drive a truck for a living? Or the 7 million Americans who work in truck stops, motels, and diners that rely on the truckers getting out and having a meal? These are the real problems of our time. We're in the midst of the greatest economic transformation in our country's history, what experts call the fourth industrial revolution. When's the last time you've heard a politician say the words fourth industrial revolution? Just now is the first time. And I am barely a politician. So this is why I'm running for president. I spent the last 7 years helping create thousands of jobs around the country, and people were clapping me on the back, giving me medals, being like, how'd you do it, Andrew? And I was like, no, you don't get it. I was pouring water into a bathtub that has a giant hole ripped in the bottom. The water is rushing out the bottom. It got Donald Trump elected, and it's about to take off. I'm going to use one last example on the technology front. When you call a customer service line right now, and you get that bot, that software, what do? You pound 000, human, 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 right? You say human, human, human into the phone over and over again until you get a human. I do the same thing. We all do it. But in 2 or 3 years, when you get that bot, it's going to sound like this. Hey, Andrew, how's it going? What can I do for you? It'll be efficient. It'll be delightful. You might not even know it's software. And what's that going to mean for the hundreds of thousands of Americans who work in call centers for a living right now, who make on average $14 an hour? So this is a buzzsaw. It's tearing through many, many different parts of our economy. I was an unhappy attorney for 5 months, and I guarantee you can automate that job. It's true. Like, software can actually go through document review and read contracts and do all that stuff better, faster than a human. So we're in the midst of this incredible, epic transformation. Our politicians are not talking about it at all. And I know this because I went to Washington, D.C. in 2017. I said, what are we going to do about the fact that technology is ripping apart our labor force, and immigrants are getting scapegoated, and immigrants have nothing to do with it? So what do you think the good folks in Washington, D.C. said to me when I said, what are we going to do about the fact that Americans are going through this fundamental transformation no one knows? They're doing nothing. That's right. He was in the room. One of them literally said to me, actually several said to me, we cannot talk about that. Number 2, we should study that. Number 3, we must educate and retrain all Americans for the jobs of the future. That last one sounds kind of decent and responsible. It's like, oh yeah, I'm for that. But I did the math. Do you all want to guess how effective government-funded retraining programs were for the manufacturing workers here in Iowa? 0 to 15%, that's right. That's a failing grade by any standard, any curve. Like 0 to 15%. Half of the manufacturing workers that lost their jobs left the workforce and never worked again. And of that group, half filed for disability, and then we saw surges in drug overdoses and suicides in those communities to the point where our life expectancy as a country has declined for the last 3 years. You know the last time American life expectancy declined 3 years in a row? Spanish flu of 1918. 100 years. We're in Spanish flu territory because our society and our economy have stopped working for us. And the folks in Washington, D.C. will do absolutely nothing about this. We all know this. There's someone in Washington, D.C. who actually said something that brought me here to you all today in Iowa. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong town. No one here in Washington will do anything about this because this is not a town of leaders. This is a town of followers. And the only way we would do anything is if you create a wave in other parts of the country and bring it crashing down on our heads. And I said to that, Iowa, challenge accepted. That's why I'm here in Iowa, because this is the ideal, the optimal place to create a wave and bring it crashing down on DC's heads. You do not need that many Iowans to start a revolution. I have done the math. Do you know how many Californians each Iowan is worth? 1,000 Californians, that's right. You look around this crowd, what are there, 300 Iowans? That's 300,000 Californians. That's like 7 football stadiums worth of Californians. This is how you start a revolution in Iowa. Because all you need is 40,000 Iowans, and then the vision sweeps the country. So what is the vision? What the heck am I talking about? How are we going to solve for this? If you've heard anything about me, you've heard this. There's an Asian man running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month, right? And those 3 things are all true. The first time you heard this $1,000 a month, you said, ha ha, it's a gimmick. Like, you know, it can never happen. But $1,000 a month dividend, a citizen's dividend, has been with the country since our founding. Thomas Paine was for it, called it the citizen's dividend. Martin Luther King fought for it, called it a guaranteed minimum income, and it is what he was fighting for on the day he was assassinated in 1968. Poor People's Campaign today, that's right. 1,000 economists endorsed it in the 70s. It was so mainstream, it passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice. in 1971 came this close to being law, and one state actually passed a dividend about 10 years later where everyone in that state now gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? And how do they pay for it? And what is the oil of the 21st century? Technology, that's right. They call it the oil check in Alaska, and they love it. We're going to call this the tech check, and we're all going to love it. And if you think, how can you possibly afford $1,000 a month for every American? Amazon's paying zero in taxes. Google, Facebook, Uber, all these mega tech companies, they're investing billions in AI, and how much are you going to see of that? Zero. That's what we have to change. We have to make the economy work for us, the owners and shareholders of this country. This is the vision for a trickle-up economy from our people and our families and our communities up. And I was just talking to a few people on the way in where they were laughing about the fact that, you know, the Trump tax cut didn't actually get money into our hands and the trickle-down economy doesn't work. And they were saying the best way to get money into the economy would be to give it to us. Because what would we do? What would we spend it on? Go ahead, shout it out. What would you spend it on? Tuition, car repairs, childcare, daycare, housing, Little League signups. How much of that money would stay right here in Iowa? Not all of it, but most of it. Some of it would float up to Amazon and the gang. You'd buy an extra toaster, you know, it'd be fine. But most of it would stay right here in your communities. It would create 40,000 jobs right here in Iowa. And it would help give rural areas a path forward because we all know that rural areas are getting depleted. And if you're a rural area, what happens when your kids come of age? They're looking around saying, I have to leave here in order to have the kind of life that I want. And that is not the way it should be in the United States of America. So this is the Freedom Dividend, and there's nothing stopping us from making it happen. There is nothing stopping a majority of citizens of a democracy from passing ourselves a dividend. Companies do it all the time, every day. And when companies do it, what do we say? We say, great job, good management. Verizon, Coke, Microsoft, all those companies, they give money to shareholders. We are the owners of this country. We can return some of it to ourselves, and it's the only way we're going to get it back. This country, unfortunately, follows the almighty dollar, so the thing to do is just to give us all more dollars. That's the basic plan. And so this is the big vision of an economy that would work for us, but we can't stop there. How many of you were excited about GDP when you woke up this morning? How many of you were like, I'm going to make a big contribution to GDP today, I can feel it? Of course not, it's ridiculous. GDP's at record highs. You know what else are at record highs right now in America? Anxiety, depression, mental illness, suicides, drug overdoses. It's all heading the wrong direction. How many of you run a business or run an organization? You know if you have the wrong measurements, you're never going to go anywhere. What good is GDP being at record highs if our communities are falling apart? Robot trucks are going to be great for GDP. They're going to be terrible for a lot of Americans. So if we want to transition to an economy that works for us and GDP is an increasingly meaningless measurement, what would actually get you excited if I told you this got better for the people of Iowa? Health and life expectancy. If I said, hey, we're healthier and living longer, you'd be like, that's great. That would actually make you pretty happy, right? What else? Clean air and clean water. Yeah, kids' childhood success rates. How about mental health and freedom from substance abuse? How about how much of us are actually enjoying the work that we're doing? So these are the measurements we actually have numbers for. And GDP is something that we made up almost 100 years ago, where even the inventor said a few things. He said, we should never use this as a measurement for national well-being because this is the inventor of GDP. He said 100 years ago, this is a terrible measurement for national well-being and we shouldn't use it as that. So what are we doing 100 years later? We're like following it off a cliff. The other thing he said was that we should include parenthood and motherhood in particular as part of the measurement because it adds so much value. And right now, my wife is at home with our 2 young boys, one of whom is autistic. What is her work included at in our economy? Zero. What does she get paid? Zero. We know that's perverse. We know that the work she's doing is among the most challenging and vital work in our community today. Certainly, it's much more valuable than the average hedge fund manager's work. I'll tell you, I trade places with my wife. Raise your hands if you're a parent. I trade places with my wife for a day or two, and I'm like, let me get back to running for president. You know what I'm talking about. So we have to start broadening what we think of as work and value. We have to do it as fast as possible, because right now, our economy is evolving in fundamental ways. They don't get it in Washington, D.C., and we have to take this vision and bring it to the rest of the country as fast as possible. That's why I'm here with you in Iowa. Iowa, you all don't know how good you have it, but you have like this responsibility that you take very, very seriously, and I love you for it. It's like you know that you have this power. You're a bit spoiled. You're kind of used to presidential candidates coming and like, showing up in, like your living room, essentially. Like, I've only met him once. I don't know what I think of that Yang guy. But the power is real. You have to use that power and take it and bring this vision to the rest of the country this time. Because if you lose this opportunity, you have 4 more years of the AI getting smarter, of your stores closing, of the call center starting to shutter. Like, we have to make this move. You all are in some ways ground zero. You've seen it on your farms. You've seen it on your main streets. You're going to see it on your highways soon. If Iowa does not make this case, we're going to lose this opportunity, and we need to make the most of it right now. So this is the vision. This is the vision of the trickle-up economy that works for us, of an economy that we can be proud to pass along to our children. And this is not left, this is not right, this is forward. And that is how we're gonna win the whole thing in 2020. Thank you very much, Iowa. I love you guys, thank you. You're amazing. Thank you, and now we're gonna take some questions because that's how the Yang Gang rolls. Where's my music? I'm kidding, there's no music. But yeah, we're gonna try and take some questions. So if you shout out a question to me, I'm gonna repeat it, and then we're gonna do this. And woman in the back, yes, with the red balloon, go ahead, shout it out.
What are you doing to protect church-state separation?
Oh, thank you. Look at that, she had better ears than I do. Well done. So the question is, how do we ensure that the church and state stay separated? And this is something that's been engraved in our country's DNA from day one. So we need to know that there are many different ways to worship in this country, and we need to have the government and people's faith be independent of each other. And speaking for myself personally, I married a Christian woman. Now we're bringing our boys up in the Christian faith, and it's been tremendous for our family. But I know that there are many different ways that people grow up, and certainly the government should not be making those sorts of decisions for anybody. So another question. Yes, with the glasses.
So, in the time of a recession, so I know you have a value-added tax, but how can we make sure we keep consistently getting that revenue from that 10% VAT, even if like spending goes down when unemployment goes up?
Yeah, so he's asking, how can we make sure that we keep the revenue coming in? And there was a person here up here, I'm not sure who it was, I think it was you, sir, who was talking about how our deficits are record highs. So I've been a business person. I've run a company that was quite successful. And when you have a debt problem as a business, you look at your revenue and you look at your expenses. And right now we have both a revenue problem and an expense problem in this country. So the revenue problem is that for the big winners of the 21st century economy, we're seeing next to nothing, because they're really, really good at just moving all the income through Ireland or expensing it all through stock compensation, and we just don't get the money. So we need to reform our tax code so we actually get a fair share of every Uber ride, every Facebook ad, every Google search, every Amazon sale, and that's immense. That's hundreds of billions of dollars. On the expense side, we have to start spending a little bit more wisely in some instances. So one of my plans is to take some of our military defense budget and move it towards infrastructure, because that's something we're going to need for a long time. It's going to produce economic value. It's going to produce a lot of the same sorts of jobs. And that's one way we can become much more efficient as a country, is by taking some of our resources on both sides. This is going to be very unpopular too. I think we should have it so the IRS just fills our taxes out for us. Why are we all knocking our heads out trying to figure out our taxes every year? They know what our taxes are. They have the taxes every previous year. They can just like fill that out for us, and then you can like sign off being like check, and then you can do something meaningful with your day. I would turn tax day into revenue day. I would make it a national holiday. We would celebrate the fact that we had another awesome year, hundreds of billions in new revenue, and we'd have a party, and we'd have it a national party. There'd be a thank you video from Oprah and The Rock and Tom Hanks saying, "Thank you, America. We did it for one more year. Here's where your money went." That's the kind of thing we need to do in this country. Instead of treating us all like we're somehow servants to the state, no, we're the owners, we're the shareholders, and we deserve to be treated like it. Thank you very much, Iowa. Thank you. I appreciate it. Happy 6th birthday to Quinlan. Look at that. I just wish someone a happy birthday. That's what happens when you get notes. We're very suggestible. As soon as you run for office, you'll just read anything anyone puts in your hand. Thank you all. I love you, Iowa. See you on the debate stage in September and October, thanks to you. That's right. Yang Gang. Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, the video guy turned around this morning and banged me here. Over the back of the unit.
I'll call her. She might be in the media area. Oh, sorry, I was messing with you.
It's just wicked. I'm just going to go back to precinct. He's going. Coming along at the back wall. Better off. Yeah, we'll make it work.
I carry all my stuff right on my back.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see how this works now. It took me a minute.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Get one more picture.
I'll bang it out as soon as I help the journalists do their jobs.
Yeah, we
and
just
I'll
asked
do
the
the thing.
first two questions from the register, which...
I love the Des Moines Register. I love you all too.
My first question for you is, with your Freedom Dividend, $1,000 a month goes different ways in different places. Even in Iowa, $1,000 a month could go further in a small town like Winterset compared to bigger towns in Iowa, like Iowa City and Des Moines. What are your thoughts on that, with $1,000 going different distances in different places?
Oh, no. I think it's going to help balance out our economy, because right now $1,000 does go further in some parts of the country than others. But that's going to help people move in both directions. So if you're living in a high-cost part of Iowa and you want to have a bigger space, and you can move someplace a little bit outside of Des Moines. And then if you want to move from a rural area into Des Moines, then it's more feasible as well. But the administration of trying to follow people around and say, you live here, you live there, and then changing the amount of money just would be unfeasible. And so it's much simpler and more straightforward and fair and universally popular if everyone gets the same amount.
For sure. One more for you. You just made the September debates. What's your strategy going in? Are you going to keep it kind of the same, coming back to UBI, or what's your move?
So we raised over $1 million in the 2.5 days after the debates in Detroit. Hundreds of thousands of people. The vast majority of the money came from new donors. So we're just going to keep making our case to the American people that we need solutions, not sound bites, and that we can do much, much better for ourselves.
Thank you.
Mr. Yang,
Hello.
You are a political outsider. Back in Washington, lots of people are trying to figure out how to move forward on the issue of gun safety, gun control. What would you do differently? This issue has been so elusive to lawmakers in the past.
On this one, the legislation's out of sync with the will of the American people. If you look at the polls, the vast majority of Americans on both sides of the aisle favor common sense gun legislation around universal background checks, red flag laws for sure, and then most support an automatic weapons ban. So in this case, it really is the NRA and lobbyists just blocking the will of the American people. But I'm happy to say I feel like momentum is growing and we're going to be able to change that.
You go this way, Andrew.
Sure, I'll shuffle around.
I know that you talked about making the debate regulations. Do you think that the new rules, the rules for DNC, are fair?
What I love about the rules is that they're transparent, everyone can see what they are, and then we all have to hit certain benchmarks. And so, to me, obviously I'm a little bit biased because we just made the debates, so I think the rules are great. But anyone who's complaining about the rules, they've been out there for all of us to see for months.
Mr. Yang, how critical is it, you think, to be in that third debate with fewer people on the stage, the chance to get more people to hear your message?
So again, we raised over $1 million in the days after the last debate, and that was with less airtime than other candidates. So if you do the math, if we get twice as much airtime, we're going to raise twice as much money. So the hope is that this next debate, I believe the DNC is very likely to break it up into 2 nights, and so instead of 10 candidates on stage, it might be only 5 or 6, and that would be ideal for us.
Mr. Yang, does $1,000 a month go to people in the country illegally as well?
It goes to citizens, and so it would not go to undocumented immigrants, but I am for a long-term path to citizenship for people who are here in this country and want to become citizens over time.
What about people who have permanent status?
So again, the Freedom Dividend only goes to citizens, but hopefully it would be an incentive for some people to adopt citizenship, particularly if they're here permanently, because then we'd be getting taxes from them. I mean, permanent residents already pay taxes, but it'd be an incentive for them to become full citizens.
What would you do about trade, expanding trade? Obviously, a lot of industries in this state are very concerned.
I certainly think the tariffs were the wrong way to go, and if you talk to farmers here in Iowa, they feel turned on by President Trump. Many of them voted for Donald Trump, and then they've seen their businesses suffer as a result. Globalization and trade are like other things in our society where we've been selling it to everyone as a win, and then there have been discrete winners and losers. So if we're going to pursue trade agreements, we have to make sure and take care of the people that are actually not going to be part of the benefits. And right now what we've said is we're going to have retraining programs for you sometimes, and the truth is Americans know those retraining programs generally do not work very well. So if we're going to have trade deals, we need to push the economic benefits more quickly and broadly. And the first step would be a dividend of $1,000 a month for every American, because then everyone would feel like they're sharing in our progress.
Mr. Yang, as you said in your introduction, technology is actually contributing to job losses more than migrants crossing the border or migrants flying into our country. Why do you think migrants are being scapegoated right now?
I think it's much easier for politicians to scapegoat people than a system or machines or technology. Because if you point to other humans and say it's their fault, then people will say like, okay, that could make sense. That's just an easier story, and we have to make sure that Americans know that the easy story is not the right story. The right story is that our economy is being transformed, particularly by technology, and by the numbers of the 5 million manufacturing jobs that were lost over the last number of years, 80% were due to technology and automation, which is the vast, vast majority.
But how will you convince the American people when the president is giving out a different narrative?
By beating Donald Trump at the ballot box in 2020, and then everyone will have the correct story in mind.
Talking to the voter, what qualifications, what do you tell them, how are you going to beat Trump?
The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math, and the pendulum's going to swing this way. I'm laser focused on solving the problems that got Donald Trump elected, and voters sense that. Voters also sense that I'm not of the Washington, D.C. system, that I'm not beholden to any corporate donors or lobbyists, that I'm just going to go in and do the right thing for the American people.
Why no serious talk about campaign finance reform from you or other Democratic candidates?
I love this question so much. If you go to my website, yang2020.com, you will see half a dozen fundamental campaign finance reform and democratic reform proposals, like ranked choice voting, 100 democracy dollars for every American so we can wash out the lobbyist cash, 12-year term limits for members of Congress. I mean, we all can see what's happening in Washington, D.C., where it's become completely disconnected from the needs of the American people. It's one reason why Donald Trump won. And so I could not agree with you more that we need to be talking more about not just getting money out of politics, but also putting money into our hands and make it so our legislators actually represent us. Because if you are a congressperson today, what does your day consist of really? It consists of a lot of dialing for dollars, a lot of fundraising calls, the occasional media appearances, meeting with your own party. And so what are your incentives? Are your incentives really to listen to your constituents back home? Unfortunately, it gets weaker and weaker. So what we have to do is we have to put the money back into our hands and say, look, you have to listen to us, and if you get 10,000 Americans behind you and they give you these 100 democracy dollars that we're going to give them just that they can give to candidates and campaigns, then that's $1 million. And then when the lobbyist comes and says, here's $50,000, you can say, I don't need your $50,000, I'm getting money from the people. Ranked choice voting would help. There are so many things we need to do in our democratic system. I also think we need to move towards 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices. We have lifetime appointments from the early days when people did not live as long. And back then, people actually stepped down from the Supreme Court for any of a number of reasons. It was not something where they stayed until they were at death's door. And now we're at a point where, unfortunately, people are hyperventilating about the health of 85-year-old Supreme Court justices. That's not the way a modern society should operate. We have to be able to see that the rules are not working and then make them work better for us, because we are the owners and shareholders of this country.
Not worthy of the stump speech? Stump speech?
I'm sorry?
Maybe it should be on the stump speech.
I like your suggestion, sir.
To that end, is there a problem with how much time all candidates have had to spend just on getting donors to reach the debate thresholds?
So one thing I love about the Yang Gang, our average donation is only $26, so my fans are even cheaper than Bernie's. No one thought it could be done, but we did it. We found the people who are cheaper than Bernie's. But we've got a whole lot of them. So we've raised millions of dollars from small donors. And so if you're not getting money from small donors, to me, you should be looking at why your message is not striking a chord.
Mr. Yang, when you talk to Iowans, a lot of people were telling me at least that one of the reasons why they're sticking with Trump is because they're worried about this left-leaning push in the Democratic Party, specifically citing the members of Congress that the president attacked. What is your stance on that? Are you worried at all that kind of these attacks are working?
If you look, I am one of only 2 candidates in the Democratic field that double-digit percentages of Trump voters say they would vote for. It's me and Bernie. And so one of the reasons why I am such a powerful candidate is that I'm drawing in thousands of disaffected Trump voters, conservatives, independents, libertarians, as well as Democrats and progressives. And I'm focused on solving many of the same problems that Trump called out. It's just that his solutions were not what we need. What did he say? We're going to bring the old jobs back. We're going to build a wall. We're going to turn back the clock. I'm saying we have to turn the clock forward. But already many people who voted for Donald Trump are being attracted to our campaign for this reason.
Mr. Yang, some Democratic candidates have called Trump a white supremacist. Others have said that they're not going that far. Where do you stand, and does it matter? Do Democrats need to be calling him out?
I think that we should judge everyone by their words and actions. And in this case, Donald Trump's words and actions indicate that he does have those beliefs, and so we have to call him out on that.
So is that a yes, he is a white supremacist?
Based on his words and actions, yes, he is a white supremacist.
On climate change, you've said that among your policies, maybe some areas of the country should not be insurable if they are disaster prone. What do you say to Iowa farmers who lost their farms in massive flooding that might likely happen again in the future?
So people who are being displaced or having their lives and communities destroyed by climate change, we need to take care of them. That's why we have congressional funds to help manage disasters after the fact. But then we also have to start getting smarter about where we build and develop. And there are certain parts of the country that you can say, look, over time, it might be wiser not to invest billions of dollars in new development in this particular community or region, like because let's say it's close to a coastline or it's an area that's likely to become hit by storms repeatedly over time. We have to start becoming more cognizant of climate change's dramatic effects on our way of life, and that includes mitigating climate change in many ways, but also includes trying to make our development smarter.
Last question, guys. On those river towns, that is that to say that they should be getting up and removing, like relocating, because they're in a place where there's likely to have flooding?
Well, it's unrealistic to say, hey, like Americans should move wholesale. in big ways. And my comment at the debate was that we need to help put money into Americans' hands so they can move to higher ground. If you think about disasters like Hurricane Katrina, who suffered the most? It was poor people who didn't even have a vehicle they could get into to drive to higher ground. So by putting economic resources into our hands, we enable ourselves and our families to be able to address some of the worst disasters. And over time, the goal is to try and help us manage this transition, because the transition is real. We can see it around us. The last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years in recorded history. People are dying of heat waves in other parts of the world and here in the US. I mean, we have to get our heads out of the sand and say, look, this is real, and become much more proactive at combating climate change in a whole range of ways. And so some of the things we should be doing is we should be planning, we should be reforesting certain parts of our country, because that's actually going to really help with carbon capture. There are a lot of things that we can do, but we have to be proactive. We can't just say, look, if we do less emitting, that it's going to reverse itself, because it will not.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Got to take it this way, bud. Is it my lemonade?
$1 that we invest in global health, we get about $20 in return.
Not a return,
The U.S.
just saying
hasn't
that.
increased
I
funding.
totally agree.
Yeah. So would you commit to doubling funding for AIDS, TB, and malaria?
There we go.
I'm a fan of increasing global aid.
Thank you guys.
I hope it was in a box.
Oh, we're on flat. Keep walking. Thank y'all.
I forgot. Mr. Yang. I forgot.
Keep walking.
The field.
Well, the field's about to shrink a lot, and they should dig into each candidate and figure out who they think is the best vision
guys,
to
gotta
help
take
the
'em.
country. in the
Thank you.
future.
Thank you. What's your favorite post so much, sir?
We have a signature.
Sure, what do you got? I'll do our walk in a second. Thank you. You can want to talk. Thank you so much, sir. Good luck, brother. Where are we taking you then?
That's a bad signature. I'm sorry about that.
Can I get one in black?
Can you use your black Sharpie?
Thank you, sure. Can I get a quick selfie? Sure. Sorry, I gotta stay over there. Gotta keep moving. Thank you guys. Andrew, can I get a quick selfie? Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Right here.
Thank you. Do we have a selfie with you?
Guys, you got a phone? Yeah, we'll do it. Thank you.
Sure,
Let's do it real quick.
Hop in.
All right.
You guys are a bit older than my boys.
I don't have it ready. There goes Sean.
Okay, you're gonna get mom food on me.
You did it! Nicely done.
Can I get one with you?
Gotta move, guys. I'm sorry. Thank you. We love y'all. Love the people. We gotta move. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Yang, quick question. So you support $1,000 for African Americans and reparations for African Americans. Can I have my money now?
All right.
I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it.
How will that payout go? I'm curious.
In everyone's bank account, first of the month.
In everybody's bank account at the first of the month.
Thank you, man.
Right?
Anyone who opts in.
Okay. So now, how would that work with the government?
Thank you, man. All right, we're good.
Thank you very
guys.
much.
We love
Appreciate
y'all.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Oh, there he is.
Hey guys, where are we heading?
Follow Ethan right in front of you. Up the stairs.
Mr. Yang, can I get a picture? Oh, thank you so much. This
Right
is my
here.
dad right here.
Thanks, guys.
Whatever, my mic.
Gotta go.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew.
Thanks, buddy.
One last selfie, please.
There we go.
Mr. Yang,
Thank you. Gotta go. Thanks again. Gotta move them. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Thank you.
How's the lemonade? These signatures are getting paid.
Love the lemonade.
My sister from California, Sarah.
Thank you.
From San Diego.
Thank you.
Mr. Yang, I've seen a number of Asian Americans.
Oh, just growing. Okay.
Andrew, did you
Keep
get
on
your
moving.
turkey leg?
Not yet.
I'm working on it.
Follow Ethan. Follow Ethan. Ethan's your hawk. Scout Harold, we're gonna call it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Yang, I've seen a number of Asian Americans represent minorities for a while and haven't always had a voice.
I'm very proud to be such a
Ethan, where are we going?
They inspire me.
Right here. Sorry, we're
Sorry, maybe I said right hi. Good to see you again. Good to see you too.
over here.
guys.
Sorry,
Yes, interview.
sorry, I walked back.
Hey. Take a picture. He's trying to get through this. We're trying to go past camera that
Yeah, we're going back. She's going back.
You guys are.
Yeah, it's got a.
There we go.
There we go.
Andrew.
You're going right there.
Here, right.
Over here. Either way you want to go. Whichever.
All right, let's put my stuff down. Okay, Andrew. In your way.
Yeah.
Rich Baltimore's right.
All right.
Honest,
All right. Right here. Everybody move.
Look my last photo. First family right there.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Doing well. You having a good time here? This is actually my second.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed. It's my first one.
No, don't worry about it. There's no reason anyone would know.
Where were you here the first time?
I was here last year when it was me, Tom Steyer, and a couple of other people. So the field is very different
That's
than
right.
what that is.
That's right. You announced earlier, and that was good.
Yes. So I have to say, I feel really good being back because it's so much more hopping this year. I mean, the soapbox is a bigger deal. I'm obviously much more well known in the public eye, whereas last time it was frankly a little bit ugly.
Do you feel like it's it felt different a little bit now that you've been on the trail for a while? Do you feel like you got different muscles now?
Yeah. I mean, everything's a journey. So if I was the same person I was a year ago, then I must be doing something.
I feel the same way. I think I'm not the same person I was yesterday after I was there. Yeah, actually. I'm learning a lot. I'm hearing somebody else.
I got you.
Yeah, there's another mic on me. I don't know if there's like a...
Oh, yeah. Do we need to...
Can we just turn it off now? There might hurt.
Yeah. Do you guys know who else? Do you guys have a mic up? Oh, okay, cool. Just for a second. There's a second mic on you. Okay, good. Speaking of robots. There's a robotic aspect
No problem.
to the amount of audio equipment on you right now.
Yep.
Just take it out.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
We're overdue to take this off anyway. So.
All right, good.
Thanks, I'm sorry. Of course.
All right, Matt. Yeah, we're almost ready.
Who loves PBS? I love PBS.
Woo! Thank you. Iowa Public Television, everybody.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, good. All right, great. All right. Make sure everybody's ready. Okay, good. I'm gonna do a classic, our old-fashioned technology, right?
Got it.
All right. I guess that is my first question. How does this feel being here?
It feels great to be back. I was here a year ago, and the campaign has grown so much since then. And also this year, it's closer to the real action in 2020, so there's a lot more excitement.
How do you break out?
Well, after the last debate, we raised over $1 million from small donors in just the next 2 or 3 days. And we just made the debate stage in the fall when the field's going to shrink a lot. So the way we break out is by just keep hammering the message to the American people that we need solutions, not sound bites, and that it's not their imagination. They can see their neighborhoods and communities being transformed around them, and we need to have a real move towards an economy that works for everyone.
There are a lot of reporters who sort of are looking at this field and depict it as progressive change people versus sort of establishment, known quantity people. Where do you think you fit in on that? I know you kind of have ideas that seem to run both gamuts, but how do you see this field breaking down, and where are you?
You know what, I think that the dichotomies that the media tries to draw are often unhelpful, like the entire progressive or establishment or socialist capitalist. The truth is a lot of these frameworks don't really apply to what we're going through right now. It's not like when someone dreamed up some of these labels, they knew that trucks would start driving themselves or artificial intelligence could come that could do the work of hundreds of thousands at zero marginal cost. So we need to just be focused on actually trying to solve the real problems of this time, and to me that doesn't fall neatly into any ideological category.
That's why we're at PBS. We like to talk about things more broadly.
Yeah.
There's a big conversation about race right now. I know you've been a part of that and you've been well aware of it. Like yesterday, Elizabeth Warren said the president is a white supremacist. What do you make of that? Do you agree with that?
You know, I think we should just judge people by their words and actions, and unfortunately the president, his words and actions have led many Americans to conclude that he's a white supremacist, and so if he wants to change that, then he needs to both speak and act very differently. Fantastic, thank you.
Good.
Good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm
We're
going to
going.
you.
Hey, Ethan, where'd you go? All right, where we are.
You need to these fine people. You really want to. And actually, I want to make sure I caught a line of yours. You said, did you say we are run by the almighty dollar? What's the line?
This country revolves around
the almighty dollar. And then you're like, so I'm going to give you more dollars? Is that it?
Yeah,
I'm sure I got that right. Okay, cool.
That is the line.
That's good. Cool. Yes,
It is true. We do run on the almighty dollar. We revolve around the almighty dollar. It's terrible.
How high do you think you need to place in my name?
You know,
yeah, of course.
I mean, there's so much time between now and then. But we're growing in Iowa all the time. I mean, you saw like our qualifying poll was here, and we'd never gotten into like that range here in Iowa, so we were thrilled.
GQ real quick.
Sure. What's that?
And then we're gonna do a photo with Rich's friend, Rich Baltimore. They're friends.
Hey man. Hey. Oh, yeah, this is a beautiful family.
I have some students.
Yeah, great. All right, who's going to take a shot of us?
Do you have the contact for the next one?
Yeah. I'm sorry. What brings you guys to town? You guys here?
We came out to see you. 1, 2, 3.
Awesome.
Yeah. Where are we on?
How long of a drive is that? I've actually made that drive.
4 hours.
It's not that bad.
You follow me.
Plus, you guys get to come to a giant fair, right?
Yes, and eat turkey legs.
Turkey legs, turkey legs.
Deep fried butter.
Deep fried butter.
I gotta take him. I'm sorry.
I know. We'll see you. It's so good to see you in DC. Yeah. I was literally just texting with Mana just yesterday.
Oh no.
Listen to your parents. They love you and know best. Okay, very quick. Hold on, Ethan. Hold on. Zach, thank you, buddy. Okay.
All right, gotta take him. Sorry, guys. Come on. Come on.
Can I get one real quick?
Real quick, because you did them a song.
Oh, the baby!
All right, got it. We gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go.
Love it, thank you.
Oh, we gotta go. Sorry, gotta keep moving.
Thanks, Andrew.
Sorry, guys. Thank you.
Andrew, why any
You're
other
the
camera
best.
that's talking about automation?
I'm not sure they understand how serious a problem it is, though I will say that some of the exchanges I have with other candidates indicate that some of them are waking up to it. It makes me very happy.
Are you talking about it like backstage with them, like to see if they're right? We're going to the grandstand.
Yes. I'm the son of immigrants myself, and so I know that immigrants make us more dynamic and stronger.
How about illegal immigrants? About that.
And when we need to enforce the border, then we also need to create a path forward for the people who are here.
Thank you. Good
Sorry.
job. Keep
Thank
going.
you.
Good job.
I'm sorry.
Woo.
Gotta stay moving. Take moving photos.
Yes.
Hello. Awesome. Can I ask you a quick
Thank you.
question?
No, we gotta keep going. I'm sorry.
You called for a full ban on assault weapons. What is an assault weapon?
No, they're different types of weapon. There's like the military style, but if you look at my website, I actually have a very detailed tiered plan that identifies each weapon type. Straight ahead.
Okay, are you willing to disarm the people who protect you?
I mean, like certainly that's not the policy.
Then why can't we protect ourselves if you can?
That's not what we're saying. But that's okay. But thank you for your questions. Really appreciate it.
Watch out. All right, to the left. Hey man.
Thank you guys.
Mr. Yang, how many genders do you believe there are?
Whoa.
Let's keep walking. Thank you.
Sorry about that. If the question is whether I believe that that
Do you believe there's 2 genders?
no, I don't.
So how many?
Well,
Not the point. Keep walking.
I mean,
Not today. Not
How many
today.
gen-
Humanity first is our slogan. We believe in humanity. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm a huge supporter of LGBTQ rights, and I know that gender is in many ways a social construct.
Just keep walking. Thank you very much for the question. Let's leave to our press office to get questions. Thank you.
Just a quick handshake. Hi. Of course. Nice to meet you. Great speech. Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Hi, I'm Paige. Nice to meet you.
We brought some friends.
Brought a
Sorry.
lot of friends.
Sorry.
Can we put a mic on you?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Guys, how do you want to deal with this? This is the late show.
Where's
Guys, we're from a TV show, so we're not doing news. So what we need you guys,
How you doing?
on dog stand, we need all you guys out that way. That's okay.
It's a
You can
separate
stand
show.
around,
It's
it's
not for
fine,
news.
and shoot and stuff.
It's not news, guys.
So this is one of the late shows that's going to do a comedic segment.
You see the little space.
Yeah.
We're a lot of space.
Guys, seriously, meet here.
Guys, what do you do?
Let's make some comedy.
We lose the lemonades. We lost lemonades. Hey, Peng, where'd you go?
Lemonade, but I lost them.
Can you send a volunteer?
This correspondent.
You want more lemonade?
Take the legs off.
or water or something. They're not for you. And he's right.
Okay.
He's right there.
Okay, this will be fun though.
Thank you. You rock. Thank you. Yeah, grab a couple of flavors. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'm a volunteer. My wife has.
There's a lot more we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you guys' shirts.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's a good photo.
I love that. I like the one below.
It was probably the best photo shoot. You know what? The extras from that photo shoot are way cooler.
Thank you. Are they?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find
Those are
them.
great shots. Thank you so much.
What's the correspondence name? Sorry about that. Hey, man.
Hi there. Mr. Yang, thank you for talking to me.
It's a pleasure.
It's great to meet you too. And I assume you know who I am, right?
I actually could use some help.
Oh, well, it's Gregory Whiteman.
Thank you, Gregory.
I know it's hard to keep track of all the candidates. I'm actually running too.
Oh, fantastic. Welcome to the field.
Thanks. I know you've got the Yang Gang. I've got a group of supporters. That's great. Yeah, they're a great name. And my supporters are the White Men, but it's not polling very well. Just kind of hoping to.
Yeah, maybe we should broaden that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying. I think that's a really good note. I'm gonna write that down. But hey, I gotta ask you. You're known for starting your own successful business, which is amazing. What's that like? Because all the business I've bought have been existing business that I've run into the ground. So.
Well, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You know, anytime you start a business, it's tons of work, and then whenever when it asks you how it's going, you always have to say it's going great.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, but you know, I'm sure that you'll have that sort of experience soon in the future.
Well, thanks, and I know you're offering $1,000 a month to people. I was wondering if I could maybe get mine now. Would that be possible?
Well, I got to win this thing in 2020, and then starting in 2021, the Freedom Dividends can go to you and every other American.
Oh, okay, because I got some veterinary bills. My dog swallowed a golf ball, and then.
No, that's terrible, man.
Yeah, it's really.
So what I need you to do to help get that dividend into your checking account?
Okay.
Endorse me. Have all of your supporters come into the Yang Gang, and then when I'm in the White House in 2021, then the Freedom Dividend, like that.
Oh, that's great.
That's what I need.
Great. I like that, and I know you got the Universal Basic Income thing, the UBI. I've got a UBT idea. It's Universal Basic Toaster. Everybody should have a toaster. If they don't, I'm going to make sure they get one. What do you think?
I agree with that, because who the heck wants bread that is not toasted?
I know, exactly.
Not this guy.
I know.
It's un-American. If you're eating that bread untoasted, I don't know what to tell you.
It's true, and a lot of people, believe it or not, have compared me to untoasted white bread. Which is, I don't personally necessarily take as an insult.
Tell them that you are at a minimum, toasted white bread.
Okay, well, thank you, and thanks for talking to me, and I love your speech, and good luck.
No problem, man. I'll see you on the trail.
Oh,
you coming with us to New Hampshire?
Oh, I hope so.
South Carolina?
Yeah, I'm currently living in my car, but if I still have gas money, I'll see you there.
I'll see you there.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Can you ask me advice on how to make pronouncements since you're the
Oh, yeah.
Also, can you congratulate him on his debates?
Oh yeah. You did great in the last debate, and I was wondering, believe it or not, there's a chance I may not make the next debate, and I was wondering if I could maybe walk in with you.
Yeah, we actually get tickets. As a candidate, you get a couple dozen tickets. So if you talk to my team, we will not give you one of them.
Okay, well that's fair and honest. I appreciate your candor. I also wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for eating food on a stick? Because frankly, I'm actually allergic to sticks.
Well, if you're allergic to sticks, I would advise against eating food off a stick.
Yeah, I guess there's a chance my mouth could make contact with it.
Yeah, so what you should do is you should go for the turkey leg, no sticks involved, and it's almost like the stick is built in.
Oh, wow, that's great advice. I heard they're actually selling pork chops near the prize Iowa hog this year, which is kind of like a before and after thing, which is interesting.
Yeah, you want to go for the after.
Yeah, exactly. Good advice. Well, thank you again.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, and best of luck to you. Oh, yeah. Oh, hi guys.
Hey guys.
You want to join me for a corn dog?
Sure.
Two, thank you.
Tell you what, it's on me.
Oh, thank you. That's so. Oh, that's very nice. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
It's one for you.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Here's another one. Ketchup, mustard's on your list.
Thank you very much. Would you recommend ketchup or mustard? Sir? Would you recommend ketchup or mustard?
I'm more of a ketchup guy.
Ketchup guy, all right. All right.
Mr. Yang, do you have any advice?
Don't let the stick touch your lips, Terry.
I won't, thanks. Can I ask you advice? Is there any way to eat a corn dog on camera and not become a meme?
Oh, don't do it. Let's find out.
No, also, I was wondering if you, first of all, I really appreciate you buying the corn dogs because, frankly, my campaign is not doing well. I know that's hard to believe, but we're a little financially strapped.
Well, stick with it. I'm sure if your message fits the voters, they'll find you.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay. Good stuff. And the stick is low enough that my health isn't threatened.
I'm glad.
Okay, great. Whoa. Want food time? Oh. You want? Well, thank you. Thanks so much. And thank you again for talking to me. And for the corn dog.
It's a pleasure.
You too, thank you.
Good luck with the campaign.
Thanks, you too.
Anto, this is my thank you so much.
One sec, Swallow.
Please.
Appreciate that.
Are you having fun yet?
Yeah.
Do you want me to take the corn dog?
I would have eaten it if you
Anson was also Holly from Washington Post here.
She did our first speech with them.
Did he pay it? I got it. What's up? Did he pay it? I got it from.
What was it, like $4 or okay? I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. I guess there's like you guys have rules like no pay anything. We will not. We'll hold it against you. I now have a half-eaten.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
This is campaign now.
Nice. Yeah. Being the best about how there's so many people running.
No experience of you walking
Where? Oh, it's a pleasant change of pace, honestly, because I came to this fair last year and this was not the situation. I mean, there was less attention being paid to the race, but also there was less attention being paid to me in the campaign. So I'll take it. If people want to hear what you have to say, then things are going well.
Yeah. What are you going to do here?
Oh, I'm hoping to get a turkey leg.
Which we found,
one,
by the way.
Oh, nice.
Good news.
And then we're being at the Wing Ding later today, and I've got an event between here and there, so I can't be here all day as much as I'd like to be. But it seems like we're getting a pretty good Iowa State Fair experience in a short period of time.
And how are you feeling? I mean, you qualified for the debate, and I heard you talking about back there about, do you feel like you need the debates? Because at some point, like the DNC is going to raise the level. I mean, will you keep going?
Well, one of the themes of the campaign, if you look at how I became successful, it was certainly not because of the debates initially. Like I came up because of podcast interviews and reaching Americans in different ways. And I think that we should continue to have a real conversation with the American people independent of the debates. Though I will say we raised so much awareness and money after the last debate that it's clear the debates play a pivotal role. And so the DNC and the media truly do have an immense amount of power and influence in determining who our leaders are going to be.
You good?
Yeah.
We're going to take turkey leg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime. For the OG. How you been? You all right?
Yeah. How about you?
Thank you.
We're having a blast. Sleep level's a little low.
I was just wondering, do you have any
Welcome
plans
to
on what to
business.
do with the chaos that's happening at the border?
I mean, we need to actually put the resource in place to have our policies be implemented in an effective way. I mean, a lot of it's, frankly, just like government incompetence and inaction. A lot of it.
Good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we got to take it. We're going to get a turkey leg. You're welcome to join. We're not buying everybody turkey legs.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Nothing personal.
I don't want to buy him a turkey leg.
We cannot. That's bad use of campaign funds, but it's a nice thought.
One right there.
No, we're happy to be here. Thank you guys for coming.
So we drove up
Thank
from
you.
Kansas City. My name's Chris.
We drove up from Kansas City just to meet you, and this is my son Tommy, and he's been pushing. He's been pushing you for months, so.
Well, thank you.
I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you very much for
Will
your
you play
time.
rock, paper, scissors with me?
Sure, let's go. So one thing about Andrew Yang is always rock.
See, so I actually played rock, paper, scissors with Joe Biden yesterday too, and I lost all scissors too. He did rock roll.
You can't go with scissors. So the thing is, we all are going to do rock.
Well,
the way
so now
to
I
beat
know.
us is just be that sheet of paper, and then you're going to win.
No, Bo Bernonian running promise.
Oh, nice, man. How
That's
are
why
you?
I'm 2015, yeah.
Oh, good stuff. I love the Mad Hat. Do you have someone who wants to pick or no?
It's all good. I got one over there.
Oh, you got one here?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, good.
Go, Mom.
You must be a brown.
Hey, bud.
Yay! You must be a brown parrot then.
I am. Parrot 15.
I'm working on being a parrot.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do it.
Yeah, you can go relatively slow. If you want to sign stuff, you're good.
Can you give us a stance on big tech censorship that's taking place from Silicon Valley of alternative media?
Can you give
us a stance on the censorship of big tech on alternative media?
Oh, sure. It's like it's a really important issue because I think most Americans would agree that at the extreme, like a platform like 8chan that has been a real part of several mass shootings. Like you can't have that kind of hate-filled online community just completely unchecked. At the same time, there are sacrosanct First Amendment rights too, so it's a very, very difficult line to draw. The challenge right now is that essentially these big technology companies are in position to make that determination instead of the American people. And so right now we're in like a bit of like a worst of all worlds situation where even the tech companies want guidelines, they want guidance, and they're looking at it being like, how are we making these decisions? And they have certain interests, but a lot of their interests revolve around the fact that they're public companies, and so they have shareholder interests. And so that may not necessarily be aligned with the public interest.
We're great. How are you?
Good. I remember you from last year.
I remember you too. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's great to see you again. I'm so glad you remember me.
I do.
Hi, Andrew. So I'm going to get 2 turkey legs. Make them go.
Yay! 2 turkey legs. Would you like to pick them out?
I'll have confidence.
All right. Do you want them wrapped up to go, or are you going to eat them and talk at the same time?
I'm definitely going to eat and talk at the same time.
All right. We need 2 of them. $20, please.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Here you go. And here's a tip for you as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Gang, gang.
Gang, gang.
We got a lot more followers this year, huh?
I remember walking last year.
It was just me and him,
I'm
I
running
think.
for president. I'm
Yeah.
running for
Hi.
president. You know, remember my name, and I do.
Oh, thank you for that. I remember you were very nice. You were like, oh, good luck with that.
Yes.
Oh, no, it's true.
What else am I supposed to say, right? There's one.
Oh my gosh.
So good to see you. All right, there's another one coming. This is for
Are these local Iowa turkeys? Like, what are they?
They probably are local Iowa turkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a staple.
Yeah. How that tastes is really good. Oh,
Look at that. Everybody's massive.
That's massive. It's going to be
There you
massive
go.
in my
Thank
stomach.
you very much, guys.
God bless you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna get some. You got a bunch of napkins, Ethan, because this is gonna be the best. Give me a. I'm gonna cut a front. Give me one for social media. Sorry, Kim. Sorry, y'all. It's for the Yang Gang. It's very important. Okay.
Delicious.
Why the turkey leg? Also, Ethan, will you hold that? Unless you want that. You good?
The turkey leg, because it's awesome.
I think we're hurting their business, so let's go.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, guys.
I don't want to
Thank
go
you,
up.
guys.
Is this helping or hurting your business?
You're fine. Thank you. Thank you.
That's the best. Thank you.
Why the turkey legs?
Because I get a turkey leg every chance I get. Because they're delicious, they're fun to eat, they make you feel like a real American. I recommend turkey legs for us all. Unless you're a vegetarian, then I would never force a turkey leg on you. But if you're not a vegetarian, turkey legs all the way.
Why are you watching this now?
I think it's just ordinary lemonade. It's fresh squeezed lemonade. So I can't recommend this highly enough. Turkey leg, washed down by fresh squeezed lemonade, delicious. And at the Iowa State Fair, this can be yours for only $15.
How long are you in Iowa? How long are you in Iowa on this trip?
Several days. I'll be here tonight for the wing ding, and then tomorrow I'm attending a forum and then a couple of events. So I'm heading out Sunday night, I think. No, Sunday morning.
Good luck to you.
Really good.
You're knowledgeable. Well informed.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
That makes sense.
Brilliant.
You're going to make that many turkey legs.
Are you really going to walk around with that big turkey?
Sure.
The driver after
Why not?
Is this your first turkey leg, or are you an experienced turkey leg consumer?
It's a great question.
This is definitely not my first turkey leg.
No, you did this last. You did it a year ago.
Okay. Have you ever eaten a turkey leg out of this context? This same
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Renaissance fairs, and they often have turkey legs. And so this must be like something like the 18th turkey leg I've had or something like that.
Whoa.
You ever do the what is that show, like the night show? You ever come out? Medieval Nights? Yeah. It's turkey legs there too.
I remember.
All right, so we oddly have like 20 minutes ago. What do you want to do? Want to walk around?
I do.
Don't have to.
Federal Reserve, stuff like this. Yeah, it is such a dangerous trend to be politicizing the Federal Reserve and the independent management that's been in place for years and decades. I mean, it's just the latest example of Trump eroding our institutions. I mean, you can't be using monetary policy as a political tool. I mean, the Fed has its own mission, managing our growth and inflation, and it should be left to manage that mission. I mean, you know, if you believe in professional management, you just have to let people do their jobs.
Turkey?
Comments on modern monetary theory, though, because that's something that some progressives have been advocating for, and that could change the fundamental relationship between the Fed and the central government.
I think modern monetary theory is highly interesting, and that it's something that we at least have to start exploring to the extent there are international examples. Like I think the closest thing might be Japan right now to like a real life example of whether modern monetary theory applies.
We got 20 minutes to kill before our next hit.
Can I take a picture with you? Thank you.
All right, guys, it's selfie time. Anyone wants a selfie? Sure thing.
Wait, video.
I'm gonna hold something.
I gotta keep the turkey leg away from you.
Oh my god. It is really good.
Alright.
James? We're actually playing. We'll be doing way more.
I appreciate your idea about $1,000 in everybody's pocket every month. But the other side's just going to argue that's just more wealth. And when they argue that argument, it's just more wealth. How are you going to defend that?
One state that's under dividend for almost 40 years is Alaska. Is a deep red state passed by a Republican. Because it's a dividend to everyone, a lot of conservatives are on board with it. What conservatives hate is when the giant bureaucracy makes the decisions for people. They actually do not mind economic independence, freedom. And not all of them, but some of them.
Well, but Alaska does have resources in order to do that. But I appreciate the idea. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
One more bite over here. You give it a turkey leg or
Any chance we could? After the bite.
You want photos this way too, but I can take that from you. I'll hold it. This is very important. It's good. Yeah. Get us all. Good day. Everyone wants to selfie. Thank you very much.
You want a photo as well?
There we go. We get a go.
Mr. Union, can we get one as well? Sure. Do you think you could say it's our fraternity?
Sure, I can do it.
Yes. Once I start moving.
Rush TDX. That's what Andrew Yang says.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Thanks.
Hi there. How are you?
Hannah, look at Grandma. Oh, now you're gonna look. Okay.
You look way too young to be a grandma.
And that's how it works at the Iowa State Fair as Andrew Yang continues to work the crowd and eating some of the traditional food at the State Fair, including corn dogs and turkey legs, as well as fried Oreos. Just some of the foods available at the Iowa State Fair, which continues for the next week and a half. This is day 2 of the fair. 5 of the candidates speak.